Mark Lennon here from WirePoints. We're pleased to have today with us former Ambassador Joseph Sella, who's been active in the Michigan effort to stop the Chinese battery plant there by Gotion. There's a lot of news there. It's substantially identical to the Gotion plant that's controversial in Manteno, Illinois, where a similar effort to stop it is underway. Joe, as I said, is a former U.S. ambassador, and he's teamed up with Pete Hoekstra, who is also a former ambassador to the Netherlands in this effort. Pete is also a former congressman, spent 18 years in Congress and was the chair of the House Intelligence Committee. Great to have you, and thanks for joining us, Joe.
Thank you for the opportunity, Mark. It's very good to be with you.
Joe, so 11 months ago or so, Gotion announced this project in Michigan. You and Pete, I think, kind of took the lead on this, and the people got up in arms pretty quickly on their own as well. 2,000 some new jobs in Michigan. This would supposedly put Michigan kind of at the cutting edge, state-of-the-art technology for electric vehicles with new lithium battery plant. What's not to like? What got you bothered about this?
So what's not to like is that PRC companies with CCP ties, advised by our national security and intelligence agencies, are national security threats. They have to be considered thoughtfully, carefully, prudently, ask hard questions, divulge things to the public. And those are best practices, Mark. How everything has been conducted in Michigan with these deals, certainly in North Dakota, and now in your backyard in Manteno, they're highly irregular and leave our country's national security vulnerable. And when you try to have a conversation with the parties involved, they mock you, they deride you, and castigate you in ways with very shrill disinformation tactics such as xenophobia and racism, which is shameful and patently untrue. But they just cannot have a serious conversation about what our national security agencies and intelligence agencies have warned state and local governments formally about with respect to these entities.
Yeah, the same experience here. Of course, Governor Pritzker has refused to answer any question. He calls opponents xenophobes on Gotion. I didn't know that xenophobes were getting through the Senate approval process for ambassadors like yourself and Pete Hoekstra. Michigan taxpayers are putting in over $800 million into your project there too, right?
Indeed, yeah, indeed. And again, that is another answer to your question of what's not to like. You take a step back and you look at the economic model, and you look at the very low demand on EVs right now, with really an uncertain future of the demand. And how can you really? It's really disgraceful and unconscionable, first, to not only engage with companies that present national security threats, but recklessly spend taxpayer dollars on a product that the public really doesn't want for now. And curiously, with respect to Ford, in July, when the heat was really bearing down with them on them in Michigan here, they did a hard pivot and started talking about scaling up now hydrogen and hybrid technology, which by all accounts really is more of a less drastic and certainly good for the environment technology that I think I anticipate will scale and here before too long.
And here in Illinois, taxpayers are putting in $536 million plus. This is the really shocking part: federal tax credits that come to $7.5 billion, a total of over $8 billion with a B for 2,600 jobs, which is 4 times the cost of the plant, which is only $2 billion. Let's go straight to the really big news this week. The really extraordinary news in the election on Tuesday night. Tell us about that. The opponents went to work in Greene County. This is in kind of the north central part of the state near Grand Rapids, but give us the details of what happened.
Sure, happy to. By the nature of these deals, as you're encountering, and the citizens in Manteno and the surrounding areas in Kankakee County are experiencing, these deals ruptured the consent of the governed. And when that happens, by the genius of our founders and our system, citizens engage and they react and exercise rights that they have. And Michigan's law may be a little bit different than Illinois', but what it led to was hard fought battle. They really have the hardest job on the front lines with these battles, and that is that they petitioned for a recall election of a supervisor in Big Rapids Township that ultimately was withdrawn by Gotion as part of their footprint because of the fierce opposition. Nonetheless, the citizens persisted and filed a recall against the supervisor. And then in Green Township, they filed a recall against the entire board, 5 members, and as well as a referendum on the repealing of an ordinance that was custom made and crafted to benefit Gotion. It took the process of zoning from the county and put it in their backyard. Again, a skids greasing operation. This is just how the PRC and the CCP entities tied therein work. Happily, last night, the supervisor in Big Rapids Township was held to account. The consent of the governed spoke last night, recalling the supervisor of Big Rapids Township and recalling the entire board in Green Township and repealing their handmade custom ordinance that they designed for Gotion.
They wasted no time on that. As I understand it, they marched right into the offices on the morning following the election and took it over basically, as they were entitled to do. It's a stunning victory for the people. You really have to hand it to the folks there.
And as a footnote, Mark, I would just say that people are ahead of politicians on this. And I would really encourage the residents of Kankakee and Manteno to exercise whatever laws exist there to hold their elected officials accountable, because it seems to me that it's, again, a repeat playbook where the consent of the governed was ruptured through this hushed and rushed deal by government and business elites, and really no consideration was given for those governed. So the governed should speak there. It may not be a recall, but it may be strong challengers in the next election there in Manteno and in the Kankakee County.
Does the new board in Green County have the power to kill the deal, do you think?
They're weighing all the options. They want to be very careful and settle in, and many of these great leaders are courageous people. One anecdote that I'll share with you is that some on the board had been there since the Reagan administration. So they're going to settle in, first time outsiders, first time to politics, first time to elective office. So they're going to settle in, take their time. They're weighing all options that are before them, and conferring with experts, I'm sure, including their in-house legal counsel, and tread lightly, but they're weighing any and all options with respect to the deal. And I'm sure we'll know more soon in the coming days and weeks.
We also have a federal effort to kill not just the Gotion deals, but anything similar on the federal tax credit that was included in the mislabeled Inflation Reduction Act of 2022, which didn't put any restrictions on these lavish subsidies for China or other challenging nations, let's put it that way, like China. So a piece of legislation was introduced in the House, joined by 3 of our representatives here in Illinois, LaHood, Bost, and Miller. How do you rate chances for that? Do you think it'll pick up steam and have any effect?
I think that with respect to the Michigan side of the ledger with Ford and Cattle and Gotion, which is in your backyard as well now, they're in some tight straits, I think, Mark. It is a multi-pronged effort. You have the grassroots and the governed there speaking last night as they did with the recalls. You have state legislators that are engaged as well in Michigan, introducing a foreign interference bill. It's a Democrat-controlled body, but it's really not a partisan issue. It really should have bipartisan support. There have been attempts to rein in certain things of the process that has been done through amendments. Those have been rejected on a party line vote, unfortunately. And then you have the engagement by different committees and individual members of the House and Senate, ranging from Senator Marco Rubio to Congressman John Molinar, who introduced the bill that you spoke of, the principal sponsor. Some of the details of the timing of that is really left to the committee chairman, where the bill is assigned, and then ultimately for a floor vote to the speaker and his leadership team. So I wouldn't be surprised if this somehow makes its way to the floor, whether it's this year or next year. But I would say it has a good chance. When it gets to the Senate, I think it's a little bit more uncertain. I think the Senate's a little bit more slow moving by the founders' design. And I think this collective, this multi-pronged push that's underway is having an effect. I know that it's my understanding that Ford has not been particularly forthcoming on multiple occasions with letters from various committees, asking very hard questions, simple questions, but hard in that their responses would probably be adversarial to them and the deal that they've worked over time. And I'm sure the same would be for anyone that is receiving a query with respect to Gotion. So this is by no means done. You have, again, as you had mentioned earlier, the Section 45X of the Inflation Reduction Act. The Department of Treasury is supposed to be giving guidance on that. Was to have been in June, now has been pushed off to December. And we'll see about that. Secretary Yellen penned an op-ed, very friendly PRC reflections on Monday. And you could see it as maybe a conditioning of the environment for the upcoming APEC summit next week, where President Biden may or may not meet with Xi Jinping. And setting the stage possibly for favorable guidance to PRC, CCP, lithium-ion battery manufacturers who could stand to reap billions from this deal. And again, another unconscionable effort by government as well.
Yeah, that gap between what the public wants and what our leaders are doing is really extraordinary. In a sense, that recall vote in Michigan shouldn't have come as a surprise. You had a statewide poll showing overwhelming opposition to the Gotion plant, 80+%. We did our own poll, commissioned a professional poll in Illinois. Same thing, every category, Democrats, Republicans, regions of the state, all age groups oppose this. And of course, people in Manteno are smoking mad about this. By 2-1, they oppose it. And I met you at one of their events down in Manteno a few weeks ago. You saw for yourself how angry they are about this. And they've organized, they've got their own nonprofit now. They're raising money. They hired lawyers.
Great. Very good. Yeah.
Yeah, they're just as committed, I think, as the people in Michigan, and hopefully we'll get the same result. Anything further to add on this situation? It's really quite extraordinary. There's so much taxpayer money on the table, and obviously the know-how that will accrue to this plant will go to the Chinese Communist Party, and they've got links clearly to the Chinese military that's been documented.
Indeed, and I guess I'll just close with a few thoughts. So, in January of this year, Secretary Antony Blinken addressed the National Conference of Mayors. You could say I'd say a generally left of middle leading organization, but bipartisan. And he addressed them and he explained to them, again, well aware of that memorandum issued from our national security intelligence agencies a year prior in 22, where they convened state and local elected officials saying, look out, China's on the hunt for these deals, be wary. He echoed this saying, listen, you have to be ambassadors for us. Our national security threat matrix is scaling. You're uniquely positioned to track and confront these items. Again, not a partisan issue. It has to be bipartisan. In August of this year, John Podesta, who is serving as President Biden's, I guess, green energy czar or point man, had a question to him in the White House press briefing room about Gotion, and he acknowledged that it is a priority of the Biden administration to, he called it friendshoring, meaning insourcing these processes, and recognizing that we cannot depend on China for this critical technology using critical minerals. And that is something that the Biden administration itself has in a memo and driving their policy. So it's very curious to see that on the one hand, and then some concerning bifurcation that the Treasury Department may issue some friendly guidance for this technology to PRC-based and CCP tied companies. Just a week or two ago, FBI Director Christopher Wray convened our Five Eyes intelligence sharing partners in California and echoed this again, that China's on the hunt. They will use what ostensibly are private sector deals and seemingly innocent and benign, but are quite otherwise. They will seize any opportunity to plant a flag, and there will be PRC and CCP tied individuals that will be engaged on staff, just doing their jobs. But at any time, the national intelligence law of China can be invoked by the Ministry of State Security, United Front Work Group, dispatching them to abide by the mandate that all PRC citizens have, and that is to surveil, collect, and report as directed, meaning conduct espionage. Footnote to that, part of the nature of dealing with PRC-based CCP-tied companies and those that are intertwined with them, there's a lot of disinformation, misinformation, diversions. We've seen that from Governor Pritzker, Governor Whitmer and her administration. You know, for months and months, they denied any ties to there was a PRC-based company, any ties to the CCP. And all of that has been debunked. And they are based in the PRC. They are CCP tied. There's videos of oaths of fealty that employees take with their CEO Li Zhen, pledging their lives for the Communist Party and defend it and fight for it all of their lives. Footnote is that at Gotion's headquarters, they have a desk there, which is part of the 1,000 Talents program, which is a part of the United Front Work Group, from which espionage emanates.
And that desk is right here in the United States too.
Correct. Yeah, Fremont, California. So again, it's unconscionable that those government and business elites kind of whistle past this, avert their eyes, and deny and throw out these shrill white-knuckle dog whistle charges of xenophobia and racism. It's utter nonsense, and it's China's expert at that, and they've become expert at it too, regrettably.
Terrific. Thanks for your leadership, Joe. Congratulations on your win there. Hope we can keep you engaged to help with the battle in Manteno, and I'm sure you're dedicated enough that it will be a help. So
thank you for your leadership, and we're all in. Happy to help however we can.
Very good. That's it. Please visit wirepoints.org. Sign up for our free newsletter. We collect all the articles from the best sources from all political viewpoints, by the way, plus our own analysis and research. We'll talk to you again. Thank you, Joe.
God bless, Mark. Thank you. Good talking to you.